The life raft bobbed on the waves. Days went by all the same. Sun, rain. Hunger made his stomach hurt. His throat was dry. He was all alone. His name was John, he thought. Maybe. Names didn't seem important anymore. Staying alive was all that mattered. He held on to life, a tiny speck in the huge ocean. A piece of driftwood, a gift from the deep sea, became his friend. He whispered to it, shared his fading hopes. What would happen to him if he ever left this watery prison? England. The word rang in his ears, a beautiful sound after a long silence. He had been rescued, saved from death by a passing ship. Now he stood on solid ground, wobbly, blinking in the sunlight. People crowded around him, their voices loud and confusing. He couldn't understand their words, only how they sounded. Pity, curiosity. They looked at him, but he saw nothing. He was lost in a sea of faces, alone. They called him a hero, a survivor. The words felt empty. Survival came with a cost he wasn't sure he could pay. Newspapers wanted his story. They called him the sole survivor. The words stuck to him like seaweed, choking him. They wanted to know about the sinking ship, the fear, the sadness. He told them nothing. What words could describe something so awful? How could they understand how much he had lost? The pain of being the only one left alive. Their curiosity felt wrong, like they were crossing a line. He hid inside himself, finding comfort in the quiet they couldn't touch. He moved like a ghost through the city. The noise, the crowds were too much for him. He saw danger in every shadow, heard whispers in the wind. They were watching him, judging him. Or was it just his mind playing tricks? Sleep offered no escape. Bad dreams bothered him. Visions of the storm, the screams, the faces disappearing in the waves. He woke up gasping for air, his heart racing. The world felt strange, dangerous. He was a stranger in a strange land, haunted by memories he couldn't escape. Survivor's guilt, the doctor said, his voice gentle but strong. It's normal after something terrible happens. John sat in the dimly lit office, staring at the wall. He hadn't asked for help, but his worried landlady had made him go. The doctor talked about therapy, about facing his fears. John said nothing. What could this man, this stranger, possibly know? His deep sadness was his alone to carry. He left the office with sleeping pills and a heavy heart. The doctor meant well, he knew, but some hurts were too deep for medicine. He found himself going to the docks, drawn to the smell of salt and the sound of seagulls. It was a place that held memories, both painful and sweet. The rhythmic crashing of the waves against the wooden piers seemed to echo the turmoil in his heart. Each step he took was heavy, laden with the weight of his past. The docks had become a sanctuary of sorts, a place where he could lose himself in the vastness of the ocean and momentarily forget the emptiness that had taken residence in his soul. It reminded him of everything he had lost, yet he couldn't stay away. The sea had taken so much from him, but it also held a strange allure, a promise of something beyond the horizon. He would stand there for hours, watching the ships come and go, imagining the lives of those aboard. Sometimes he would close his eyes and let the wind carry him to a time when he was happy, when love was not just a distant memory. One day he saw her. She was a vision against the backdrop of the endless sea, her presence both unexpected and strangely familiar. Her eyes, filled with a sorrow that mirrored his own, drew him in. He felt an inexplicable pull towards her, as if their fates were somehow intertwined. A woman standing by the water, her face showing a familiar sadness. It was a look he knew all too well, a look that spoke of loss and longing. She seemed lost in her own world, much like he often was. He wondered what her story was, what had brought her to this place of solitude and reflection. They talked, slowly at first. Their words were tentative, like the first drops of rain before a storm. But as the minutes turned into hours, their conversation flowed more freely. They shared their stories, their pain, and their hopes. It was as if they had known each other for a lifetime, even though they had just met. She had lost her husband at sea years ago. The pain of that loss was still fresh, etched into her every expression. She spoke of him with a mixture of love and sorrow, her voice trembling with the weight of her memories. He could see the depth of her grief, and it resonated with his own. She understood his pain, the way grief could destroy a man's soul. In her eyes he saw a reflection of his own suffering, and it was both comforting and heartbreaking. They were two souls adrift in a sea of sorrow, finding solace in each other's company. As he listened to her story, he felt a spark of something he hadn't expected to feel again. Connection, understanding. It was a feeling that had been absent from his life for so long that he had almost forgotten what it felt like. But in her presence it began to stir once more, like a flame rekindled from dying embers, a shared feeling that didn't need words. In that silent moment they found a bond that transcended their individual pain. It was a connection born of shared experiences and mutual understanding, a fragile yet powerful thread that tied their hearts together, and in that moment they both knew that they had found something precious, something worth holding on to. He went back to the docks every day, finding comfort in the woman's company. The docks had become a sanctuary for him, a place where the weight of his worries seemed to lift, even if just for a moment. The gentle lapping of the waves against the wooden posts, the distant calls of seagulls and the salty breeze that tousled his hair, all of it brought a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if the very essence of the sea was working to heal his wounded soul. He learned her name was Mary. Mary had an aura of warmth and kindness that was impossible to ignore. Her eyes sparkled with a genuine interest in the world around her, and her laughter was like a melody that could brighten even the darkest of days. She had a way of making him feel seen, truly seen, in a way that no one else had before. It was as if she could look past the facade he put up and see the person he was underneath. She was a lifeline, a light in the darkness that threatened to swallow him. Whenever he felt the shadows closing in, Mary's presence was like a beacon guiding him back to safety. She had an uncanny ability to sense when he was struggling, and she always knew just what to say to lift his spirits. Her words were like a balm to his wounded heart, soothing the pain and giving him the strength to keep going. They talked about their loved ones, about how unpredictable life is, and about the dreams they once had. Their conversations were a mix of laughter and tears, of shared memories and future hopes. They found solace in each other's company, knowing that they were not alone in their struggles. The bond they formed was something special, something that went beyond mere friendship. It was a connection that gave them both a sense of belonging, about the mysteries of life and death that connected them. They pondered the big questions, the ones that had no easy answers. Why do we suffer? What happens after we die? Is there a purpose to all of this? These were the questions that kept them up at night, and yet discussing them with each other made them feel a little less daunting. They found comfort in the fact that they were both searching for the same answers, and that they could lean on each other during their quest for understanding. When she was with him, the shadows seemed smaller, the whispers quieter. The fears that once loomed large in his mind began to shrink, replaced by the warmth of her presence. She had a way of making the world seem a little less scary, a little more manageable. With her by his side, he felt like he could face anything. The sunsets they watched together became symbols of hope, reminders that even the darkest days could end in beauty. He was still haunted by the past, but now there was a little bit of something else. The memories of his past still lingered, like ghosts that refused to be exorcised. But now there was a new element in his life, something that gave him a reason to keep moving forward. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense of possibility that made the future seem a little brighter, a tiny bit of hope, a wish for a future he hadn't thought possible. This hope was fragile, like a delicate flower blooming in the harshest of conditions, but it was there, and it was enough to keep him going. With Mary by his side, he began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could find happiness again. The unfathomable depths of his despair were still there, but now they were tempered by the light of hope, a light that Mary had helped him find. Time, like the ocean tide, kept moving. The bad dreams came less often, replaced by a dull ache of loss. He still saw fear in people's eyes when they recognized him, but it didn't hurt him as much anymore. He found comfort in simple things. the warm sun on his face, the sound of children laughing, the taste of salty air. Life, he realized, was a precious gift, even with terrible loss. He started to draw again, his charcoal pencil bringing to life the memories that haunted him. The storm, the lifeboat, the endless ocean, He knew he could never truly forget the tragedy. The memories of that fateful day were etched into his mind like scars that would never fade. Every detail, every moment played over and over in his head, a constant reminder of what he had lost. The pain was a part of him now, woven into the very fabric of his being. It was a part of him now, deep inside. But he also knew that he couldn't let it define him. He couldn't let the weight of the past anchor him down, preventing him from moving forward. He had to find a way to carry the pain without letting it consume him. But he also knew that he couldn't let it control him, couldn't let it dictate his every move. He had to rise above it, to find strength in the midst of his sorrow. He had to believe that there was still hope, still a future worth fighting for, couldn't let the ghosts of the past keep him prisoner. He had to confront them, to face the shadows that haunted him. Only by acknowledging his pain could he begin to heal. He had to let go of the fear that held him back, to embrace the unknown with courage and determination. He would honor their memory by living, by cherishing the moments they had shared. He would keep their spirit alive in his heart, carrying their love with him wherever he went. He would find joy in the little things, in the beauty of the world around him, by being grateful for each new day. He would sail again, not just on the waters of the sea, but on the journey of life itself. Each sunrise would be a reminder of the promise of a new beginning, a chance to start over. Not on the vast, dangerous ocean, but on the sea of life, with all its unpredictable currents and hidden depths. He would navigate the challenges that came his way, steering his course with wisdom and resilience. But on the sea of life, with all its ups and downs, its moments of calm and its storms, he would embrace the journey, knowing that each experience, whether good or bad, was a part of his story. With all its ups and downs, its twists and turns, he would face each wave with courage, each challenge with determination. He would find strength in the knowledge that he was not alone, that others had faced similar trials and had come out stronger on the other side. Its good times and bad times. He would celebrate the moments of joy and find solace in the moments of sorrow. He would learn to appreciate the beauty of life in all its forms, to find meaning in the journey itself. The journey ahead would be long, filled with unknowns and uncertainty. But he was ready to face it, to take each step with purpose and resolve. He would carry the lessons of the past with him, using them to guide his way forward. And there would be times when the darkness felt like too much, when the weight of his grief threatened to overwhelm him, but he would remind himself that even in the darkest moments there was always a glimmer of hope. But he would face it one wave at a time, one challenge at a time. He would find the strength to keep going, to keep moving forward. He would hold on to the belief that better days were ahead, that the storm would eventually pass, knowing that even in the deepest darkness there was always a chance of finding light. He would seek out the moments of brightness, the small acts of kindness that could illuminate his path. There was always a chance of finding light. He would hold on to that hope, letting it guide him through the darkest nights. And in the end, he would find his way, sailing once more on the sea of life, with a heart full of hope and a spirit unbroken.